All right, everyone. Thanks for clicking. This is Juan and Mike. Watch every WrestleMania during quarantine as something to do, and then record their thoughts afterward.
We have no choice.
That's about all the description you're gonna get, and all the description that matters. But if you're interested
Trying
in
to do right to
WrestleManias,
humanity.
this is all for you people. If you're interested in WrestleManias and two random, normal-ish wrestling fans' opinion of them
I
in
love being
massive
normal.
retrospect, just hit that like, hit that subscribe if you want. We won't be blowing you up with anything silly except for everything that we do, I guess. So, WrestleMania 1, March 31st, 1985. 19,121 people
That
in
place was
attendance.
packed too. Like they filled up
Yeah, you can't really
all the way
tell.
around the ring.
Yeah, all around the ring. You can't tell
Yeah.
because how dark it is, but I like that. I like that old school MSG
Yeah, I liked
aura.
it. I definitely liked it. It was one of the first things that stood out. Like no Titantron. It's people. People. The first row started what felt like 4 to 5 feet from the ring. Legitimately, like an arm's length. If somebody wanted to just lean over and touch the corner of the ring or the edge of the ring, they could have done it. I thought the atmosphere was through the roof awesome, and it's MSG, New York. It's not even just one of those deals that it was definitely the right spot to do it in the 1980s, but it's a great spot to even hold a WrestleMania today.
It's really cool that it ended up being the first place because, or the birthplace of WrestleMania, because whenever they go there, it's such an important place. And you can tell that Vince, and we'll talk about this, but Vince, he went for the downs on this one and he connected.
Yep.
I mean, he said this is going to be the birthplace of, the future of the company, really. And if it
And of
didn't
the
work, they were
industry.
going to go belly up. And of the industry as we know it today.
Yeah.
And so it really marked the birth of the industry going forward. It kind of marked the death of the industry up until that point for a lot of, Crockett Promotions and a lot of other competing regionals and all that. And, the fact that he picked Madison Square Garden, I think you see it even today when they go back there. They never waste a show. Me and you have been there once for a Survivor Series when The Rock came back. Quick trivia for everyone watching: when The Rock returned to wrestle to WWE, who was his opponent? It was R-Truth and The Miz. He teamed with John Cena against the Awesome Truth, I think it was. You will stump a million people with that one. No one remembers who the hell he fought that night. No one even remembers it was a tag match he came back with. But I digress. MSG was the spot, and good for Vince for calling the shot. Billy Martin was there, Cyndi Lauper, Liberace, Muhammad Ali. You watch this WrestleMania, and again, it's Vince forecasting the rest of what his industry is going to be, the sports entertainment industry, and what WrestleMania is going to be. I mean, it's the exact same thing now. It's just turned up to 11. But you bring in every MTV star you can. Not that MTV's around anymore. You bring in every, athlete with some cachet, and that's your crossover appeal. He hit it out of the park, and he told us what he was going to do.
And a lot of those people weren't introduced into the show until really late. I thought the front half of the show was very wrestling heavy, and maybe it was a way to keep people's eyeballs on the product and by making it wrestling heavy at the beginning. But a lot of those celebrities that you mentioned for crossover, they didn't really get introduced into the show until later in the show, which is more than likely strategized.
Yeah, I think, the Rockettes and Liberace, Muhammad Ali, and Billy Martin all didn't show up for no reason at all until right before the main event. There was no reason for them to be out there. Billy Martin was the ring announcer, and Muhammad Ali came out and did one of these, and Billy and Liberace also. So, I don't understand why they were there. Vince just said, if we can have you bring eyeballs, come on.
Yeah, no, totally agreed. The main event, if anybody's never seen it before, was just a beautiful disaster. Was probably the best way to describe it. Just like a car wreck. Too much happening all at once. It was hard to pay attention to everything, but they pulled it off. I think it was everything it needed to be still.
1985's match of the year, according to PWI. I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting.
It was I wasn't even the match of the card. But when you look at it for what it was, I think obviously it holds some water. The fact that Mr. T, we didn't even mention Mr. T as a celebrity. He's in the main event. which they've done a couple times since. Lawrence Taylor and Bam Bam Bigelow, I think it was WrestleMania 9. But usually they bring in a guy like a Floyd Mayweather, and it's a headlining match, but it's not the main event. It's on the marquee, but it doesn't lead the show.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting to have Mr. T in there. I didn't think he was great, but no one remembers what these guys do in the ring. They just remember that they were there.
Right. He looked the part. He looked pretty good. And having Hogan as his partner and then Piper to play off of, I think he was able to at least pull it off. One surprise though, Cyndi Lauper was actually pretty good on the mic. Like she was actually pretty decent on the microphone, which was interesting.
I thought Lauper, she looked like she was born to do it. She had makeup smeared. She had lipstick smeared all over her teeth. Her eye shadows kind of all over the place. She brought more energy, I thought, than Wendy Richter did. She sold it and she bought in 110%. She knew why she was there more than anyone else, I thought. And if I don't know how much she played into things going forward. I don't think very much at all. I know that she was in a couple of the matches leading up to that Wendy Richter match. But how's this for some wrestling fact or fiction? King Kong Bundy squashes Special Delivery Jones in I think the second match.
Yep.
They're billing it as a 9-second squash the entire way through, which is the shortest WrestleMania match until The Rock beats Eric Rowan at WrestleMania 32. Only it wasn't 9 seconds. It was 17 seconds officially. WWE billed it as 9 seconds. Jesse the Body was pushing it as 9 seconds the entire time.
All night until the very end.
It's some of the most classic wrestling could be. They're telling us what we just saw never happened. It's just classic wrestling, sleight of hand.
And he had the line like right after the 3 count, like that's gotta be like 9 seconds or something.
As if he presses the stopwatch when every match starts, just in case he's gonna need to know at the very end, and then immediately pressing it at 9 seconds. I don't believe it.
And in my head, like I know kayfabe is dead, but even in the 1980s, I would have been sitting in the stands like, wait, no chance. Like 0.0 chance that was 9 seconds. But they tried. And they shoved it down our throats the entire night.
Yeah, you were taking it, no doubt. So what do you think of the show front to back as far as, was it entertaining to you? I mean, you watch a show from 35 years ago, you might think automatically, the style's not going to be great. It's going to be slow. It's going to be plotting. I kind of liked it. What'd you think?
I thought it was actually pretty timeless outside of just like things you can't really control, like the quality of the camera work and maybe going into replays, just the tech altogether. Obviously, it is far more advanced in today's world, but you take that aside and you just watch the show for what it is at WrestleMania. I thought they hit a home run with it. It was, again, timeless. And I think the most important thing was that the pace was ridiculous. Even the pace in between matches, like getting to match, and like it always captivated you, everything that they were doing. And I believe they basically went straight to Mean Gene in between every single match. That kind of like had a good flow to it, and you had a good understanding what was going to happen. It was match, promos, match, and it was that type of structure all the way through. But I mean, it hit a home run. I thought the pace was great. It kept you captivated, and nothing was overdone. The matches weren't very long. I think the longest match was about 13 minutes, and that was the main event. But just about every other match was under 10 minutes, so you were able to pay attention to it. You understood the structure. You understood what they were trying to accomplish within the match, and I thought it was easy to follow.
2 hours and 16 minutes was what the WWE Network's timeline said. 2:16. You've had WrestleManias of late that have gone more than double that. Obviously, it's a different business. I'm not going to say that you're not supposed to have commercial breaks or selling advertising, or you're not going to have the BS segments backstage. But like you said, the pace of this one, though, the pace in the ring, you look at Tito Santana, you look at Ricky Steamboat, you look at all the U.S. Express, the tag match. I thought the pace of the in-ring stuff was all pretty good. But the pace of the show, like you said, you wouldn't have a chance to go to the bathroom. And you didn't need to because it was only 2:16. It moved quick, and it kind of respected the viewer's attention span and time. Now you're talking over 5 hours for some of these shows, and me and you have both been to these shows where you're begging to get out of there at the end of the night, which shouldn't be how it is when you spend $1,000+ to get to a place, to go to a WrestleMania and get your seats. And depending on if you show up for the pre-show, you're there for 6-7 hours. You're dying to get out before the main event. It shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I've stated this to you before in the past. Like, I almost spitefully never want to go to an East Coast WrestleMania ever until they change this back to just like a much better structure of how they want to do things for WrestleMania. It's just, in New York, the WrestleMania ended at like 12:30 at night. The main event, which is supposed to be just this great all women's triple threat match for both titles, like I was spent, and I wasn't even there. I was at home. Never mind having to like go there and things like that. The one thing that pops in my head, and I don't know if this is true or not, is that I wonder if Vince bought about 2.5 hours worth of pay-per-view time, and he was like, we just got to go. We got to go. There's no chance we're going to have the first ever WrestleMania just go black on the main event. So maybe
there was when I was looking up, when I was putting some heavy research into Wikipedia, I saw that there was a state or a county or some area where it did go black. There's a time limit thing. It ran up against it. And so they showed the entirety of WrestleMania for free a couple weeks later on like the local news channel or something like that.
Oh, that's the thing. Yeah, maybe it was like a 2-hour thing.
So, you're talking 216. Would you like to see them go back to, a 3-hour WrestleMania, or are we so far past that now that it's just, and not do you think it's going to happen? Would you like to see that? I don't even know if I'd like to see 3 hours now, but get me out of there in under 4.
Yeah. I'm okay with like the 3.5, like 30-minute pre-show in terms of match and then 3-hour pay-per-view. I think one of the biggest things that you can point at is that there are only 9 matches on this card. Most WrestleManias nowadays, you're in the teens somewhere, legitimately, like 14, 15, 16 matches. And, you do read that Vince wants to do everybody a solid and get them on the show because they've been there for the entire year. But ultimately, I think what's best for a business is that not everybody gets to make the show. Like, sorry, not everybody gets to make the show. We're going to bill, our best 10 matches. If for some reason there are 11 feuds one year, then we have 11 matches, but the 9 matches thing, I think that's what sold it. I mean, you have these 9 matches and you add in what they do today, maybe 30 to 45 minutes worth of advertisements and promos. There's your 3 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree 100%. So let's fly through the show real quick. You don't have to go match by match necessarily, but Tito Santana starts off, and it's WrestleMania. It starts with some of the worst Sega Genesis opening graphics you've ever seen, and it's one of those things where I'd like to think, even if I lived in 1985 and I was -4 at that time, even if I was alive then, I would have looked to you and said, what are we watching? Like, what is the production value right here? But I don't know. 1985, maybe that was the best they had. But you dive right in, and it's Tito Santana backstage with the Executioner, and I'm thinking already Mean Gene hitting it out of the park. He starts hot, and he does not. He sings a national anthem. Then he interviews every single wrestler backstage. Usually they're standing right next to each other, even though they're looking at the camera and not addressing one another.
That bothered me a little bit because there's no excuse that it was the 1980s at that point. You could have just cut in, cut out.
It's an easy fix. It's not like pre-recorded technology didn't exist in 1985. Right. They were using pre-recorded technology. Just put a partition right in the middle of it.